we're all supposed to be students of the Quran. It doesn't just teach us to remember Allah and to do dhikr of Allah, but it actually teaches us how to think. It teaches us how to think. And it makes us clear about what our priorities are and what it means to have a relationship with Allah and what it means to make tawbah. Like, it clarifies our concepts about all of these things. See, let me put it to you even more simply. When you reach a conclusion intellectually, when you're convinced of something and you understand it, your mind only goes further, it doesn't go back. When you understand 2 + 2 = 4, then it doesn't matter if I wake you up at 3 in the morning and, hey, 2 + 2. Well, I'm not feeling the taqwa right now, so I think it's 3. No, actually. Now that you've reached this conclusion, it is always going to be 4 for you. You understand it, it's done, it's settled. An aspect of our iman, an aspect of our conviction, an aspect of every piece of our aqidah actually has to do with understanding. It has to do with our aqid. And we have to cleanse it. Like, for example, the person who says one act of disobedience to Allah must mean that I've been completely disqualified, so any other act of obedience to Allah doesn't mean anything, isn't just a problem they have in their heart, isn't just a matter of waswasa of shaitan. It's actually a problem of not having clear understanding. They're not clear about how to think about this stuff, how to think about Allah. When a person starts thinking, well, if I made a mistake in my past, Allah is not going to forgive me. It's already, I made a pretty big mistake. And there's no, I've asked istighfar, but there's no way, that was a really big one. There's no way Allah will forgive me. It's not just a problem this person has in their heart. As a matter of fact, this problem is one of understanding. You don't realize who you're dealing with and what policies He revealed about forgiveness. التائب من الذنب كمن لا ذنب له is a policy. If you made sincere tawbah, it's like you did nothing. It's done. It's over. You don't look back. That's a policy. You have to understand that policy and not look back again. Now, when it comes to the heart, that's actually an up and down. So there's an aspect of our iman that is solid. We are absolutely convinced and we're clear about certain ideas. Then above and beyond that is the iman that goes up, the awareness of Allah that goes up, and the awareness of Allah that comes down. As a matter of fact, someone who understands their iman very clearly, understands who Allah is, understands what the akhirah is, understands what the Messenger ﷺ has to say about various things, even they're going to sin. They're going to have days that are lazy. They're going to have salawat that don't have good khushu' in them, etc., etc. Those are going to be days that occur. But I argue, actually, the more conversations I have with family, friends, other Muslims, the more I realize that, as a matter of fact, the tazkiyah that is being talked about as part of what the campaign is to spread the word of Allah, يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِم, the tazkiyah that's being talked about, the cleansing that's being talked about, we immediately almost start thinking about tazkiyah of al-qalb, right? Cleansing the heart. But it's actually also cleansing of our understanding, cleansing our minds. We have to clarify certain concepts for ourselves. And if you don't work on both of these at the same time, you land yourself in a problem. There are people who are so concerned with the spiritual. Like I know it might get a little abstract, so I keep bringing it back. There's some people who say, there are people who go to like some guy, I was just talking to somebody from Pakistan, and like in Karachi, there's apparently a phenomenon. There's these really old guys that dress all weird and they have gigantic beards and they mumble things, and people go to them and say, Baba, hamare liye dua kar do. Like, you're the Baba dude, you can do some magical thing and you're going to make dua for us. And their dua is accepted, and they show you some weird pictures and backwards writings in Arabic, some crazy funky stuff, and people believe in this stuff. And then people say if they really had iman of Allah in their heart, they wouldn't need to go to these weird cycles or whatever. As a matter of fact, it's not just about iman in the heart. If people were clear about what they're supposed to believe, they would know not to become superstitious. That just wouldn't be the case for them. So I personally think that in Ramadan, we have an opportunity not only to do dhikr of Allah as we're doing, but actually to take time out and think, to clearly think, to allow ourselves to become students of understanding this book. And that is directly related to our spiritual state. It's not a separate thing. It's actually connected to our spiritual state. Now, the hearts that are safe, one of the first line of safety in this book, you will find in the Quran, one of the most common criticisms is people don't think. And one of the most common purposes mentioned for ayat to be revealed, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ, so you can think. So you can think. In the same breath as you find لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ and لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, you find لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. You have a few. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ تَتَّقُونَ تَعْقِلُونَ تَذَكَّرُونَ. There's a number of them that repeat themselves over and over again. Right? And you can actually clearly demonstrate that each of them has a particular purpose. What is the purpose of reminding someone? Reminding someone, for their brain, for their mind, is a review. And for their heart, it's advice. The heart gets refreshed with a reminder. What is when Allah says, so you can have taqwa, that's specifically about the heart. إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. It's specifically related to the heart. When Allah says, so you can think, like thinking is a particular demand of the Quran. Actually think about what the word of Allah is saying. It will cleanse you. It will clean you. We've created a culture where we refuse to think about the word of Allah. Study tafasir. Learn tafasir. You know when, and the highest level of thinking, you know what it's called in the Quran? The highest level of thinking is called at-tadabbur. Deep reflection into the Quran. And it's complained about twice in the Quran. And it's remarkable that one time it's described as a spiritual problem, and the other time it's described as an intellectual problem. As if to say, when you do tadabbur in the Quran, it will help you intellectually and it will help you spiritually. It'll help both of those things. And we need both of those things, because we are a people that are concerned with our aql as much as we are with our qalb. People that are pure minds, pure good people, they're called ulul albab, for example, in the Quran. And when Allah describes ulul albab, He says, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. It's two parts. One is they remember Allah, they do dhikr of Allah. You guys tell me, the dhikr of Allah takes place in the mind or in the heart, according to the Quran? Do you know? The dhikr of Allah happens where? In the heart. In the heart. وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا. There's several ayat where dhikr and qalb are associated with each other. So the people of the most pure minds, the good people, sound thinking people, the first thing Allah describes for them is they remember Allah, and that's how they purify their heart. But then the very same part of the ayah, وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, they think deeply about the skies and the earth and how they were created. They think a lot about the skies and the earth. Thinking, where does that happen? That's an activity of the mind. That's an intellectual activity. These two things go hand in hand. So when we talk about tazkiyah in this month, I happen to believe that this month, because it was the excess reading of the Quran, and it was the excess praying with the Quran, and excess listening to the Quran, it was actually attacking two problems at the same time. For every sahabi, every time he stood in salah, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, wa radiyallahu ta'ala anha, every time they stood in salah, it was a spiritual experience and it was a profound intellectual experience. Like they heard something they should think about. What has happened with us today? Because we don't have a direct connection with the Quran, most Muslims, we don't get the spiritual experience out of salah because we don't know what the Imam is saying. When he's talking about the akhirah, the guy next to you is crying and you're confused, so you start crying because you're confused. So we don't get that direct connection. And of course, when Allah is talking about things that are supposed to make us think, that are really supposed to make us think, we're supposed to get lost in thought. We have no idea because the ayat are passing over our ears. You know? لَمْ يَخِرُّوا عَلَيْهَا صُمًّا وَعُمْيَانًا. That's the state that we've become. That we shouldn't become from the people who trip over the ayat. They are deaf and they are blind. They're deaf and they're blind. And that's the problem that we're experiencing. Notice in the Quran also when it comes to the heart, one of the most strangest expressions in the Quran. Allah says, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts but they don't think deeply with them. They have hearts but they don't think deeply with them. We have to become people that never disconnect the matter of thought with al-qalb. And one of the spiritual exercises that has been abandoned, really, I feel like it's been abandoned, is the exercise of deeply pondering into the Quran. Really, really taking the time, not just to recite, and don't get lazy about reciting, but actually build your foundation of how this book wants you to think. Wallahi, we're not giving it enough attention. Really, we're not. And if we do, it's not just ilm that comes from it. Ilm is actually secondary. As far as the Quran's picture is concerned, knowledge is actually secondary. What comes first, if you have the right way of thinking, then when you gain knowledge, you actually benefit from that knowledge. If you don't have the right way of thinking, you don't benefit from that knowledge. You know, there are people who say, well, I don't know, I think there's a lot of waswasa of shaitan in me. What can you do? You can recite some Quran on me. And the guy himself, the one who you're reciting Quran on to, does not understand these ayat. The ayat in which you learn that protection only comes from Allah. The ayat in which you learn that there's no power, there's no authority except by Allah. No shaitan can do to you, no waswasa can do to you what Allah, the protection, when Allah is protecting you. When Allah is guarding your heart. When you understand that, then shaitan starts leaving you anyway. Shaitan starts getting weaker anyway. So we have to become students, really. Honestly, we have to become students in this month. In addition to the adhkar, what we have abandoned, we have to revive. It's become a lopsided picture. It's become a lopsided picture. So many Muslims, mashallah, all over the world, they're increasing their qira'ah of the Quran, and may Allah reward them for it. But this is the month also to increase, if not reading, if you get sleepy when you read, at least, and if you speak Bangla, or you speak Urdu, or you speak Arabic, and you speak whatever else, and you're not comfortable with English, start listening to durus of ulama. MashaAllah, we're living in times where all their MP3s and all their recordings and all their videos, all this stuff is available, right? So start listening to beneficial tafsir every day. From somebody, from something. Just start listening and listening. Cleanse your mind by what you can expose yourself to. Final comment, I'll say something just about qalb salim. That's something actually very beautiful that Allah Azza wa Jalla talks about in the Quran. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. That the day on which money will not be any good and children will be of no benefit, the only thing that is worth anything, the one who comes before Allah with a safe heart. With a safe heart. My purpose in this talk, my intention is to not highlight what I've previously highlighted, is to highlight what I feel gets ignored a lot. So I'm going to try to highlight that about qalb salim, inshallah ta'ala. The word salim and comes from salama, and salama actually has to do with safety. And the word recognizes the presence of danger. In other words, if Allah is saying qalb salim, then He's saying a heart that is safe. In other words, there are dangers, but this heart is protected from those dangers. Similarly, salim is used for healthy. Salim, even now in modern Arabic, is used for healthy, just like in old times. What that suggests is a heart that is healthy. And if it's healthy, it is protected from what? From diseases. So now salim is a reference to two things. There are two things on the outside that are attacking this heart. There are diseases and other dangers. There are dangers that are attacked, and you're safe and you're healthy. The heart is safe and the heart is healthy. Now the thing is, all of our emotions, as far as the Qur'an's picture is concerned, all of our emotions, whether they're fear, whether they're excitement, whether they are conviction, whether they are sadness, every single emotion that Allah talks about in the Qur'an, He takes it back to the heart. Every human emotion that is described in the Qur'an, somehow or the other, goes back to al-qalb. Why is that important to know? Because we don't just have emotions towards Allah. We also have emotions towards people. We have emotions towards our mother, our father, our siblings, our friends, Muslims, others. We have emotions towards other people. And if you have negative emotions, if you're overwhelmed with anger towards your brother, you're overwhelmed with sadness about your son, you're overwhelmed with some negative emotion about another creation of Allah, that emotion is still affecting what part of you? Your heart. It's affecting your heart. So your heart is actually not healthy and it's not safe. In other words, we actually have to not only fix our relationship with Allah in order to connect with Allah, we actually have to fix our relationships with people. We have to forgive people, let it go. We have to let our angers go. We have to reconcile between people we've stopped talking to. We have to ask for forgiveness from people we said something wrong to. If we wrong, it's very embarrassing. It's very difficult to apologize. It is not easy. It is not easy to apologize. It's not easy to call someone and say, listen, I said this. I didn't mean to say this. I am truly sorry, because you expect that they're going to yell at you after that. They're not just going to forgive and say it's okay. They might say, what you said really hurt me. I can't believe you said it. And while you're listening to someone criticize you for those 15, 20 minutes, you don't have to do this, by the way. There's no job that's forcing you to do this. You are not being paid to do this. You're only doing this because you need to cleanse your own heart. This is a month to ask for people's forgiveness. This is the month to give people forgiveness. This is the month to let go of grudges. This is the month to assess in yourself, when do you lose it? When do you develop bad emotions? Towards who? Do siblings, there's a lot of kids here, I see him there, up there. You have a lot of anger towards your siblings. Very easily you get angry at your brother and your sister. Why are you looking at me? Why are you touching that? Why are you sitting there? Very easily you snap. A lot of husbands become very angry with their wives. So we have to really assess ourselves and where our emotions go out of whack with each other. And inshallah ta'ala, that will help us significantly make progress towards our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jalla.